Since that day I left corporate America, it's been beautiful, man. I got to speak with my idol, Zig Ziglar. I got my own television show. I've been places, seen things I've never seen, but it would all stem from making that decision May 9th, 2001, 3:48 p.m.
Hi, my name's Kurt Mercadante, and I'm a husband, father, speaker, trainer, and disruptive entrepreneur whose mission is to save the world by helping individuals fight for lives of freedom and fulfillment. And that's what this show is about. We're here to help you fight apathy and conformity in your life. We're here to interview and tell the stories of individuals around the world who are helping others live lives of freedom and fulfillment as well. This is the Freedom Club Podcast, and we're grateful you're here. Today, we have a huge treat for you. If you are on YouTube, you likely have seen his videos. I think you have 170,000 plus subscribers on YouTube. My interview today is with Victor Antonio. He's an international sales trainer superstar. I love the fact that not only, like me, was he raised in Chicago, he's not a fan of the evil empire, the Chicago Cubs. He was raised a fan of the Chicago White Sox. It's all about grit and grind with the White Sox. But very interesting, like my dad, you spent time at Honeywell. You're an electrical engineer by education. You moved your way into sales. You have 13 books on sales and motivation, including awesome book we were talking about online. I want to talk about more in the interview. Sales Ex Machina talks about artificial intelligence, how it's impacting the sales industry and your ability to sell. My guest today, thank you very much for joining us, Victor Antonio. Victor, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. Now, I just want to be clear here. I said I was a fan of the Sox. I wasn't kicking dirt on the Cubs, so I don't want to get any calls here.
Yeah.
Kurt ad-libbed that part.
I used to, you said to your dad, we used to go to about one game at Wrigley per year.
That was us.
And so I was okay with them. And then, but we'd always go to the White Sox games. Somewhere along the line, I think it was around the 90s, I had a roommate in college who just was overbearing Cubs fan. My mom and my dad started to go back and forth. My mom was a WGN super listener. Oh, wow. So would listen to nothing but the Cubs all day. They would place bets on games. Mm-hmm. And somewhere along that line, I flipped the switch and I think Chicago kind of became this way, especially when the Sox won the World Series. I was at game one and all the Cubs fans were like, oh, who cares? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, forget it. Yeah. So the only World Series I've watched since the White Sox won, and I watched every inning, was when the Cubs played the Indians. As a Sox fan, I'm not a fan of the Cleveland Indians, but I cheered so hard for the Indians against the Cubs in that World Series. So, but anyways, we're not here to talk about baseball. Victor, I really appreciate it. I love your videos because they're not only about sales. If you're not in sales, although I would argue every single human sells every single day without knowing it, there's a lot of motivational aspects and mindset that goes into what you do. And to see that there's 170,000 plus people subscribe to your YouTube page shows me that you're just having an incredible impact.
I think so. It's always nice to see the comments and the feedbacks and the emails I get. I'm sure you get the same thing, Kurt. It's really nice to get those. And I think when I look at what I do with that channel, and probably like you, we always want to leave a body of work behind. I hate the word legacy, by the way. I'd rather say I want to leave a body of work behind that people go, he tried. You know what I mean? To really kind of uncover some of the subtleties, in this case, of selling and motivation. That's kind of my niche.
Yeah. And the name of this podcast is the Freedom Club Podcast. And I try to train people to have more freedom and fulfillment in their lives. Amen. And I like to talk on this podcast a lot about sales. And I talk to folks like yourself because in some cases, there are folks trapped in a 9-to-5 job that they hate. They want to start their own business, but they're terrified of sales, so they don't. On the other hand, I think that there are also a lot of folks I work with who are in sales who aren't selling because they're not productive. You write about that. I'll get into a quote that you have in Sales Ex Machina. They're doing a lot of administrative tasks, everything except selling, and they wonder why they're not hitting their goals. And I just think from a broader point of view, selling is a skill that every single human being would be more free if they learned it.
Well, it's funny because years ago, I started out as an engineer, so I was kind of an introvert / nerd. So it shocks a lot of my friends actually when they, I went to high school with, who see me today. They're like, whoa, what happened to you? When did you come out of your shell type of thing? And so I went into sales because, for several reasons, but one is I'm a capitalist by trade, so I like making money. And I realized early on that, engineers don't make as much money as salespeople, and salespeople seem to have a little more fun and make more money. And so I made that shift into sales, and I haven't looked back since. I've been very happy. And then on May 9th, 2001, 3:48 p.m., to be exact, I call it quits in corporate America. At the time, I was president of sales and marketing. It was like a $420 million company. And I just said, I'm done. I want to do my thing, right? As I always say, my thing, right? And so it was, and, as soon as I made that decision, Kurt, you're like, yeah, I'm free, breaking the chains that bind type of thing, right? Then the very next day I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? What did I do? It's like pure terror because I didn't have a plan. I know I wanted to write books and be a speaker. Right? That was it. Did I know how to do it? No. But you know how sometimes you just got to cut or you just never do it. And for me, it had to be a hard cut. I wouldn't recommend that for everybody. I don't think that's a great plan. I think it's always good to create like an off-ramp, a gentle off-ramp, right? That would be a better way. But I didn't think, you know what it was? I was scared that if I just didn't cut, it would go on and on because the money was so good. The money was so good that I finally said, stop. And so I knew though, even though I was scared because I didn't know where to start, I did have some money in the bank. So I knew I had fuel in the engine for a while, right? So I can coast for a while, get it right. And just like we were talking in the pre-interview, I went through that moment or those moments where people were telling me, I can help you. I can show you the promised land. And they offered me, I went to workshops, seminars, online, and, all this infomercials that were out there. I was buying this stuff. And at the end of the day, I realized that, man, you just got to put in the work. At the end of the day, nobody will hand it to you. You have to put in the work. And that was one of the biggest lessons. And I think selling, to tie it back to selling, everybody can sell, really can. And we just sell differently. Sometimes when I talk to people, it's like, I can't sell. I said, what do you mean you can't sell? And they say, well, I just can't sell like you. I said, please don't. Don't sell like me. Please don't. Because everybody has their own style. I've always loved that Bruce Lee has a great line. And when he talked about how he created his own, form of Kung Fu, which was Jeet Kune Do. And so he has that phrase where he says, absorb what is useful, discard what is not, and then add what is uniquely yours. And I love that because that's selling. So when you're listening to somebody on YouTube, on this podcast, absorb what's useful, discard what is not. But at the end of the day, you have to add what is uniquely yours. And that's how you begin selling, by finding yourself, if I can be so existential about it.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'm a Gallup certified strengths coach, and a lot of that, or it all, is about finding your innate talents, investing in them. And I call it unleashing your superpowers, whatever those are. And it's unique to every single person. I'm interested, going back to you making that jump because, well, hell, I want to learn it because I'm in that process. But there's a lot of people too who, they've, and I agree, building that off ramp is important, especially if you don't have money, right, to support yourself. Right. But sometimes it just makes sense to burn the boats and that's it. So you had the gurus, you had the people who took your money, didn't deliver, and you said, I just got to put in the work. What did that look like? What did the, from A to B look like for Victor Antonio?
So I remember having spent this money and I said, all right, let's, and then it hit me. I have an engineering degree and an MBA. I said, why am I seeking information outside when I know what to do? I've just built a large company, built large territories. Why am I seeking answers outside of myself? That was kind of a dumb moment for me. I thought they had the secret sauce, that they knew something I didn't. But at the end of the day, business basics are business basics, right? Blocking and tackling, it's all the same. And that's all they were really showing me. So what I started to do was, if I can map this out, is, okay, I want to be a speaker. I want to write books. I started writing my books, right? My first book was The Corporate Inferno, which is like a fictional novel based on Dante Alighieri's Married with Business, Ayn Rand, and you get the whole bit. Anyway.
Love it.
And so
two of my favorite authors, by the way.
There you go. Yeah, and so I write this book and I start marketing it, right? And just I send out, at that time it was CDs, and I send this out on the book as a PDF. I send it out to all these different publishers. Everybody rejected me. Like, I mean, it just went into the void, right? But I really loved the book. Then the second book I wrote was called The Logic of Success. So I'm writing and say, okay, this is motivational. Let's talk about my life, almost autobiographical. At the same time, I said, you know what? I'm going to build a website. And I learned how to build my own website, HTML. Today, anybody can build a website. Back then, it was a little more difficult, but everybody wanted to charge me a lot of money, and I didn't feel like I had a sense of control. That's my thing. And by the way, it isn't that I can't let go. It's just that when you're first starting out something, nobody's going to take care of your baby as well as you at the beginning. Now, once it starts walking and running, anybody can take care of it, right? So I started building my own website. I just learned how to use programs. So I learned how to build HTML. I learned how to use, graphic designs, create my own flyers and everything. So I really started doing my own marketing, started building my list slowly. And then somewhere I heard Gary Vaynerchuk, read his book, Crush It. He was like video. And it was around that time that Google bought YouTube. And so I made a decision. I went all in with video. And so I had this little stupid camera. It was like really small. If you go on my YouTube channel, you'll way back, you'll see my original videos. They're horrible. But I've always had in my head that saying, never aim for perfection, aim for success. Because a lot of people, it ain't perfect, so I'm not, releasing it.
Right.
Me, I'm opposite. I'm so ADHD, man. I release stuff and I go, what was that? So, but you learn, you know what I mean? You go through the process, you're learning. And so I had a website. I started using my email, just trying to collect emails. And by the way, you know how they trickle in, one here, right. 1 a week, 3 a week. I just wasn't hitting the big numbers. But when I started doing videos, I put myself on a cadence. And I think we were doing 3 to 5 videos every week. And I'm putting out videos on YouTube. And nothing, Curtis. But I told myself, I gave myself the 100 video rule. I said, let's not have any expectations till we get to 100. 100 is my number, man. It's like, even when I read a book, when I read a book, if it doesn't catch my, hold my interest up to page 100, it's the test. If it's not there for me, I just give it away to Goodwill. I stop reading, give it away to Goodwill. And the reason I do that is because a lot of people, they don't read another book. They don't buy another book because they didn't finish the last one. Well, maybe the last one wasn't for you. You started reading, I'm not into it. But in your mind, your mother or father's yelling at you, got to finish what you started. Right. Got to finish what you started. No, you don't. If it makes no sense, don't finish it. And so I got that. So I'm doing the videos, not aiming for perfection. And little by little, I got to 100. Then I started seeing a little traffic. And then all of a sudden, it was driving traffic to my website where it made sense. And all of a sudden, people started calling me. And so, today I live off of, I look at my business today, it's really almost 100% inbound. So I never have to pick up the phone. It's because of all the content I put out. And by the way, when I was writing the book, I was also writing articles at the time, 500 word articles. And the articles were always with the keywords that I wanted people to search on. Because I knew I knew the search engines worked, so I understand the search engines. And as you're writing stuff, you really begin to, and you know this already because you're writing a book September, right? Next book coming out?
Yes, sir.
Right. And so when you're writing, it also clarifies your thoughts because it sounds good in your head. But there's something about putting it down on paper. Then you go, I don't think I have this clear. And then that feeds into my keynotes. It's in my thoughts. I think I got it. I write it down on paper. I don't got it. Do some more research, rewrite. But that then also feeds into how I talk from the stage. And that's kind of been the evolution of how I've been doing it. So I've been all in with video because of Gary Vaynerchuk's book.
That's incredible. And I'm a big fan of video on LinkedIn. It pays to be early too, as one of the first ones in on LinkedIn video. One thing I want to go back to is the kind of sunk costs. And when you talked about going the 100 video rule and you talked about the books, right? And people either waste time or, don't finish a book so they don't start another one. When you apply that to business, an interesting question I get a lot and struggle with myself is when to know when to move on versus keep at it.
Yeah.
And when you work with
that.
Yeah. Do you when you work with folks, what do you say? All right, you're trying something, you're trying to sell, you're trying this. And, I'm someone who likes to, all right, I give myself 2 weeks and be like, no, give it a month at least. Is there a clear line there?
I don't think there is. I really don't think there is. I think we all struggle with that. When I ask myself, what should I just stop? I always ask myself this question: am I spent? Did I use all the arrows, in my quiver? Did I use it all? I got nothing left. I'm looking around. I see nothing. I got nothing. I'm reaching out for help, working with coaches, whatever, got nothing. Okay, I think I've reached something. Either that or the market isn't there.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And so I always think, and I look at things from a sales standpoint, that the bigger the opportunity, the longer I'm willing to hang in there. So if it's a transactional type of sale, I'm going to put in minimal time. In other words, and I'm exaggerating, if it's a $100 deal, I'm not putting in a lot of time. But
Sure.
if I know this could be $100,000, $1 million deal, I'm putting time in, and I'm going to keep doing it, and just stay in the game. But it's a tough question, Kurt, because I think we all struggle with that. When do you say enough without feeling like a quitter?
Yeah.
Right? That line.
Exactly.
I think you have to feel that one. That's one of those judgment calls. But I always ask my question: have we tried everything? Have we exhausted every possibility? And if we have, then you know what? The market's not responding. Tap out. But then, if I may add this asterisk, I always believe in social proof. And by that, that has guided me. By this, I mean social proof. If somebody else is doing it, damn it, there's a way. Do you know what I mean? Right. So when I started speaking, my goal was one day I want to be like a $50,000 speaker, right? That's my goal. Haven't gotten there yet, but working towards it. And so I look at people and I know people who are earning $50,000 keynote. I go, well, they're doing it. Well, what are they doing? And so in my mind, if I haven't done everything they're doing and they're making that, then I still have something to do.
Sure.
And so because I see it's possible. Now, obviously, there's some little luck in there, right? You get picked up by a major publisher, you get your own television show, whatever it may be. There might be some outlier effect, as Malcolm Gladwell will say. But nonetheless, if somebody else is doing it, then that's social proof to me. That means I can do it. And that's kind of my measuring point.
Speaking of social and the videos that you do, and Mike Weinberg, who wrote a book, Sales Truth, recently.
I read it.
You did? Okay, great. He was on my podcast 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And we talk about, and I get what he means in terms of, he talks about social selling and about, someone pointing to Kylie Jenner and her Instagram page and getting paid, and how they try to apply that to like someone selling missiles, right? And it's like, that's not going to matter. I'd love to hear from you, the intersection between, because you said it's inbound and you do that through videos.
Correct.
Where do you find the intersection between branding and sales, and marketing and sales? And I guess that's different for different people, but
that's a good question. When I was reading Sales Truth by Mike Weinberg, which is a good book, by the way. It's like, I called it, I was talking to a friend of mine, I said, man, it's like the ultimate sales rant. It's a long rant. That's what it is, a long sales rant. But it confirms a lot of things I thought, and it was also interesting to get his perspective as well. But I'll push back a little bit on Mike. I think he went too hard on certain things because, when people say cold calling is dead, again, I don't believe in absolutes. I just don't. I think Lao Tzu, the philosopher, says the mind's greatest disease is to be for or against. And I've always kept that. And I think he was the one who said it. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But the idea is that if you're always like for or against something, it's like, you're never settled. So when people say, is social selling effective? I go, yes. Is cold calling effective? Yes. Is sales effective? Yes. Marketing, it depends how you use it, right? And so one of the things he brought up that really caused him much consternation was when the CEB came out with the study that people are 57% into the buying process, right? Forrester said they're 80% into the buying process by the time they reach out and contact you, right? And so he was like, they still need to talk to you. And I was like, yeah, of course they do. They're confused. They don't know what they want. And so to say this or that, I don't believe in it. So to answer your question directly is when people say, what's the intersection? We're all going to have our secret formula. By that, I mean, it's like a balanced equation. Right now, when I first started, it was more cold calling, but I've gotten enough mojo where it's now all inbound and I'm good with that. Now I could add cold calling back into the mix if I need to, but I don't. I was doing a lot of marketing online, paying for it, pay-per-click, search engine marketing, right? Don't need to do that as much. I can pull back on that. So if I look at them as levers, right? Or if you're from across the pond, levers, right? So you can look at them as levers and you can say, which one do I need to pull on that works for me? And I think if you're listening to this, you find your own mix. Because maybe at the beginning, you need to make those calls. You know what I mean? And you need to market hard. You need to pay for those pay-per-clicks, right? And then, or maybe as you start moving in a certain direction, you feel that traction just like you you start doing more videos, but then you don't focus on all social media channels. You narrow in on one that works for you, right? For me, YouTube works like a champ, right? And for you, I believe you said LinkedIn works in, right?
Yes,
for you.
yeah.
And so all of a sudden you start narrowing in. And so it's not that we ignore the other social channels. We just don't give them the priority. And I think, that's how I view it. So, and again, a year from now it could be totally different.
One piece we talked about I
feel like I equivocated on that one, but
no. It made perfect sense. I think there are a lot of people, you see it on LinkedIn who are absolutists on things. And, I fell into the, it's all got to be inbound. And this year I found when I started adding a little bit of outbound with it and adding some of the phone in with the inbound, for me, that worked. I know some people who never pick up a phone and it comes in. So,
every time I hear absolutists, like I was listening to a Gary Vee thing, who I like, but this whole thing about going to college, right? It's a waste of time. And I'm like, for me, my engineering degree has still been the biggest return on investment on anything I've ever got. And to this day, it still pays dividends. You know what I mean? Because it depends what the degree is.
Sure.
Like if you're going to get, I don't know, the history of ants, and that's your degree, I'm going to agree with Gary on this one. But if there's a degree that's, highly valued, especially today, if you look at computer programming, right? Languages, all of a sudden that's a hot topic and people are paying big money for that type of skill set. So again, it really depends without being an absolutist.
With, along those lines, before we started recording here, we talked about kind of the notion of attract and repel and the importance of being yourself when you sell. And we talked a little bit about superpowers and being who you are. What do you think in terms of, do you ever see people who just aren't selling? They're just not hitting it. And it can trace back to the fact that they're trying to be someone else or mimic other people's behaviors instead of allowing their inner, I don't want to be inner self to shine. That sounds so foo-foo, but.
What happened, here's a small story. So, and it's a true story, but it was very pivotal in my career in speaking was I started speaking and I came out of the corporate world. So I was pretty buttoned up. And so I did the PowerPoint, then the basic, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you just told them, right? And I wasn't getting any traction. And I remember I was driving to Orlando to a college, Valencia College, right? And I'm driving. And you know how you have those, you get into your own head, you're like, dang, I'm not enjoying myself. The reason I quit corporate America is so I can enjoy what I'm doing. I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. And I'm not making a lot of money. I just wasn't getting it. In my first year, by the way, I should share this because I think this is always like, in the spirit of full disclosure, I made $17,000, 17, let's be accurate, in the speaking business, right? There were times I couldn't give away my speech for free. Okay. I was like, can I pay you to take my speech? Type of thing, right? And so I'm driving to Valencia College and I'm getting paid for that one. And so I'm driving and I'm like, just not happy. I'm not feeling it. And then I went back into my head and I thought about the 7 habits of highly effective people, the circle of influence. There's things you can't control and there's things that you can control. I said, damn it, what can I control? Just kind of go back to the basics. I said, well, I can't control, the market coming to me and giving me money, but I can control is how I present. And so that day I made a decision and I recorded this. So I have it on tape, literally VHS tape. And I recorded this and I went in there, basically throughout the PowerPoints and just say, let me deliver it the way Victor delivers it. Just went straight up Victor. And man, when I was done, it's like you could feel the energy was different. It's like, holy crap. And I felt it because it was me. Right? It was scary because it was me. Like right before, I was like, "Oh, should I do it? Should I not do it? I don't know, man." We all have these, these inner conversations. I don't know, and maybe that's not. So I said, "Screw it, we're doing it," because we know what the other road leads to, right? The very next day, I had to fly out to Atlanta, Georgia, to speak to Bell South at the time. And now I'm not talking to college students. I'm talking to a leadership team, right? And before I speak, I said, "Do we do it the same way we did it yesterday?" With the college students, having fun, delivering content, but having fun. I don't know, man, it's this buttoned up crowd got, and again, my brain screamed, screw it. It really did. It just seemed, screw it, because we know what the other road leads to. And all I know is I remember finishing, I was on a desk, on a table, with one shoe in the air, in my hand in the air, and I got a standing ovation. And at that moment, I realized, I said, okay, I found my style, which is I found myself. But it was so, Kurt, it was so scary, man. To let your inner beauty shine, so to speak, to let it go and speak your way and say it your way. And I think the day people make that decision, they'll feel the difference. Because I think what happens is you're trying to mimic somebody else. Mark Sanborn, who wrote The Fred Fact, has a great saying. He says, imitate to learn, innovate to earn. Imitate to learn, innovate to earn. And I think it's okay at the beginning of your sales career to imitate to learn. But at the end of the day, you have to innovate to earn. In other words, you have to become you. Break out of your chrysalis and become you type of thing. And so I think that's hard, though, because you don't trust who you are. As weird as that may sound, you don't trust who you are, or you're afraid to reveal who you are to the world, thinking they might reject who you are. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you're not happy unless you are who you are. I know that sounds like a Gordian knot type of statement, but there it is. And so once people get past that fear and let it fly, I think that's when it changes. The guardrails I put on myself is that, Victor, we let it fly, but we're always respectful. We don't curse from the stage. You just do it your way. You're never offensive. And then other than that, those are your guardrails. Other than that, let her fly. Yeah. And it worked. It worked, Kurt.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's. I have followed it. Sometimes I have cursed from the stage, but only if I have the approval, the permission of the people organizing it.
Yeah. But, and by the way, that was not a judgment. Whether it's you or Gary Vaynerchuk, it was not judgment. It's just that those are the rules I put on myself. Let's do it this way, and let's keep it that way, because that's me. And I've seen people try to be Gary Vaynerchuk on stage, and you're like, stop.
Right.
It doesn't work. Stop.
Yeah. And he, every other word is an F-bomb, that type of thing. It's funny because especially in this day of trolls and weird commenters, I had a comment, I've only had the beard and the shaved head for a couple of years, and I kind of stuck with it, and it's become my brand. I get a comment the other day on a video I did. The guy who told me I looked like an erection with ears.
That makes no sense.
Yeah. My response was, that's why people call me hard-headed.
Yeah.
There you go.
But that makes no sense.
But people see that and they're like, oh, I can't be myself. I'm not putting myself out there. And, you just have to not care.
But I think the saddest thing, and we know this, we all know this inherently, that the biggest regret you'll have is laying on your deathbed going, woulda, coulda, shoulda, that whole bit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so I can say this, and I've said this many times. My wife hates when I say what I'm about to say. I could die tomorrow. Like literally die tomorrow, with the exception of seeing my kids get married and have kids. Dude, since that day I left corporate America, it's been beautiful, man. The stuff that's happened to me, I can't even, I got to speak with my idol, Zig Ziglar, on stage. I got my own television show on Spike TV. Don't know if you saw that one. It's called Life or Debt. Got a full season on there. I got my own television show. I've been places, seeing things I've never seen. But it would all stem from making that decision, May 9th, 2001, 3:48 p.m.
Yeah, I love the fact that you know the time of day.
Because I called him. I called the chairman. I said, I'm done. And he was like, you lose everything. I know. And at that time, I was making some serious dough. And he says, you lose everything, your stocks and everything, which now are probably worth a lot of money. But it didn't matter to me. I just couldn't do it anymore. I call it a quiet discontent. And it gets to the point where that discontent is just, it starts gnawing at you. You got to quit. Yeah. And so if you're listening to this, man, I'm not saying just jump off the rails and do what I did, but begin making a plan to get the hell out. And I think people don't sell because they're not themselves. My point was that when you start being like somebody else, you don't come across as authentic. You're still trying to memorize scripts in your head.
Right.
You know what I mean? Trying to say the right thing, trying to be clever. Where at the end of the day, when you're talking to somebody, you got a solution, they got a problem. Let's make the two meet.
I love it. I'd love to finish off here. Not that we're cutting short or anything, but
sure.
It's your favorite book. You said it's your favorite book. And I loved it. And I'm obsessed with artificial intelligence and just the impacts current and a lot. And reading your book, it's like, there's a lot of things that people don't realize are AI that are AI. I mean, Chrome extensions on LinkedIn that search by a certain criteria and message people and do this. If this, then that. Well, there's if this, then that program. And the book is all about the impact that AI has on your ability to sell, on the sale. And it gets past kind of the hysteria of all our jobs are going to leave. And it really talks about how it can really provide a little oomph and some fuel to what you're already doing. It can help you waste less time. And really, I'm drawing a blank here on a word, but make it easier. Well, make it easier for you to sell in a way that's more effective.
I think the simplest visual, because people always ask me, Victor, is AI going to replace me? I said, it's a wrong question. And in the book, I talk about list out every task you have to do today to do your job. Just list out every task and just list out every task. Those that can be repeated and duplicated, they're very rudimentary. Those are going to be AI'd away, right? So all it'll do is it'll free up more time for you to actually do more things. And so I mentioned to you, but I didn't tell you the full story of how I decided to write the book.
Sure.
So large healthcare company, right? I'm in Seoul, Korea, doing a 3-day event. They take me downstairs to their call center. The guy says, basically, his president that runs that division says, here's what happens. We make 100 calls, and what we do is we record the conversations. You record the conversations then. Now, they're selling health insurance products, right? And so, Kurt, I call you, I'm trying to sell you something, right? They record the conversation. The AI then takes the audio and analyzes it. It breaks our conversation up into 2 tracks, your track and my track. It'll analyze your track. You're the potential customer. And based on the words you use, keyword phrases, so forth and so on, it'll make a determination whether you deserve or warrant a callback or not.
Wow.
And so all of a sudden, because run the example, if you make 100 calls, you close 20 deals, you got 80 left, the next day, who do you call first? And if you ask most people, well, gut instinct, I think this person, I connected with them. Well, the machine says, no, here's your list. And it does this lead prioritization for you. And even puts them away like, don't bother, this is not going anywhere. Then it also analyzes my track. And then based on the question you asked me, and I didn't give you the right answer, it'll tell my manager, Victor needs more training on this module.
Interesting.
Notice that the machine is analyzing a language. It's called natural language processing. And it's also helping you to determine who warrants a call back or not. Just that feature itself. And so I think they saw a lift. I think it was like 67%, some crazy number like that, when they started using the system. That's huge.
Yeah.
And so it was amazing. So that was like, wait a minute, I got to look into this. And then now it's like everything else. Once you know AI is out there, then you start looking everywhere and you start seeing AI everywhere. And so I wouldn't be scared of AI. I know that, there's the gloom doom scenario, right? They're going to set off nuclear missiles or something. I mean, and Elon Musk didn't help, and neither did, I forgot, Stephen Hawking with their comments about Armageddon and AI. But for us, the actual layman, the salesperson, AI is going to enhance what you're going to be able to do and sell more.
Yeah, and there's and the ability to crunch data so that, if you're a salesperson who doesn't like cold calling or feels like you're a victim of the leads you've been given, I mean, the ability to crunch the data for better leads, better prospecting, smarter leads and prospecting will make your job, or should make your job, all that much easier.
Yeah, it's actually going to find niches for you that you didn't see. In the book, I talk about, the Target example I give and a couple of other how the data actually reveals certain tendencies to want to buy. Therefore, you as a salesperson are more likely to close that deal because you're talking to people who have a high willingness to buy. So the AI from that perspective can help you.
Yeah, and you talk about Watson and social media analysis too, and the tone. It can measure tone, and it, not just the words, but the actual tone people are using. If they're happy, if they're mad, if they're upset, it's just incredible.
What's going to happen? There's a company called, and I didn't put them in the book. They're called Effectiva, and basically what they did is they recorded like millions of facial expressions and tones, right? And so they're using this AI in cars now. And it can tell you when you're looking a little fatigued, right? It'll tell you if it sees that you're nodding off, it'll vibrate the actual steering wheel for you. And if you're pissed off, you got road rage, it'll change the channel, put it on take it off rock and put it on classical and recommend that you get off on the next Starbucks since you always like stopping at Starbucks.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So imagine now that type of these little meters next to your head that when you're looking at somebody, you can actually see what they're feeling. Imagine us doing a conference call right now. And I'm using AI to monitor. Well, it'll monitor your micro expressions, your gestures, your body language, your tone, and will tell me at the end of the conversation whether that went well or not. I mean, that's where it's going. That's the amazing part.
Going back to the part about analyzing the discussion, not on the consumer, but on the seller. When you talk about that, and there's certainly a bit of accountability and holding the seller accountable to need more training and ask the right questions. But also when you talk about kind of getting rid of the mundane tasks that take sellers away from selling. Do you ever find that some folks there are folks out there who maybe hide behind the administrative tasks because they don't want to sell, and then they're like, well, I work so hard. And so they rely on that. They rely on, helping out at the barbecue and doing those things. And now they're not going to be able to do that because all that crap's going to be taken away. It's like,
no
you got to
excuses.
sell.
Yeah. Well, I think, look, we're afraid of something. We just don't want to do it. You know what I mean? We work around it. We all do this. So if you're feeling that way, it's human, it's natural. But I think what happens is that either you don't know your product, you don't know the market well enough, or you don't know your clients. Those three things: product, market, client. If you know your product well, then have the conversation. If you know what the market's wanting, then you know what the conversations are going to be. If you know clients and what their needs are, then the conversation should be easy. Do you know what I mean? So that would be my Venn diagram of the three things you would know. That's business acumen right there. Product, market, client. You got it. And so I think people see, the thing is we got to get rid of this programming, and it's hard because as kids we're told, don't interrupt people when they're talking. Right? So you're told. So now you're picking up the phone, and what is a cold call? It's an interruption. You know what right. I mean? And if the person's older than you, you're like, well, you really don't want to interrupt to tell your elders what they should be doing. That just seems rude. And it's that programming that we have to delete. And I always tell people, if you shifted, you mentioned it earlier, I think before you got going, is that I believe in the value for value exchange, which is very Ayn Rand, right?
Sure.
And that is, I have a product that can help you. So Kurt, you have a company, you have 100 people, as an example I always use. I have a company that develops a product. We have 100 people in our company, right? I sell you the product, right? That'll help you become more effective, increase your revenue, reduce your costs, or expand your market share, whatever it may be, right? But did I help 100 people? Yes, I did. But I think I helped more. If everybody in that place is married and has 2 kids, I helped 400 people because now your company is more stable and more profitable. Then I collected your money. I got 100 people working for me. They got families. They got kids. I just helped 400 people on my side. And I think when you see it from a sales standpoint, that it's a value for value exchange. There's no begging here. People always think selling is about begging. Please buy my product. No, I got something that can help you. I'm not begging. My favorite phrase for selling is we're value merchants. You know what I mean? I'm bringing value to help your business. I'm bringing value. When you're coaching your students, right? Your people, you're bringing value to help them grow. You're bringing value. You're not begging for their sale. You're bringing value because I know how to help you grow. I can help you, speed to market, speed to value. I can help you. And that's what people are looking for. And I think that's the prism you look at sales through that'll make you more effective.
What do you say to someone who just is, it's holding them back from starting their own business. It's holding and just kind of bringing full circle where we started, or, they're struggling and they just have a fear of sales.
Yeah.
What do you tell them?
It's a conversation. Sales is just a conversation. The thing is, I go back to this example. You go out to a restaurant, right? You go out with your wife, right? It's the greatest experience you have. You walk in, valet doesn't even charge you anything. You go in, concierge, says hi, sits you at the perfect place. They bring by the perfect meal with the cart. They show you what you're going to get. Perfect wine, music, perfect, Tchaikovsky, Swan Lake, B minor, ever so loud just to have polite conversation. Everything is just beautiful, right? On the way out, valet cleaned your car, even from the inside and the outside, and sent you on your way. Next day, what are you going to do? You're going to call your friends. You're going to say, look, last night, I got to tell you where I went, right? And what happens is you're so excited with what just happened. Do you know what I mean? That you're willing to share that. And well, that's selling. You're selling your friend on the fact they should go to this restaurant. Imagine if you got that excited about whatever you're selling, your product. If you got like, look, here's why you should buy it. The thing is, if you're afraid to sell it, it's because maybe you don't understand the value it provides. I mean, just wrap your brain around that simple statement. If you don't understand the value it provides, you feel like you're selling. But when you understand the value, you realize that you're helping the end user. It's not about selling them something so they'll give you money. That's okay. You're giving them something to help their business grow or help themselves grow. So if you're listening to this, stop it. Just stop. If you want it, look, to me, I love sales because we're, as I call sales, the irreducible primary of business. We're a profit center. We're a profit center. We're it costs us this much to be with the company, and we got to make money. Accounting, cost center. Marketing, you could argue, still a cost center. Finance, cost center. Inventory, still cost, right? Everybody's a cost center, but the salesperson is a true profit center. And so I think if you see yourself as a business person, and sales can allow you to make so much money. Let me just emphasize that. So much money, right? Delivering value. That if you learn how to master the art of selling, which is really about being honest, being direct, being not afraid to lose the deal. That's why I think also holds a lot of people back, Kurt. They're afraid to lose the deal.
Yeah.
Well, what I realize, the more you try hard to win the deal, the more likely you are to lose the deal. That whole repel thing, right? You're trying too hard. And I don't think, delete those caricatures you have in your head. A, B, C, always be selling. You know what I mean?
Right.
Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross, Arthur Miller, Death of a Salesman, all that stuff is junk. It's garbage. It doesn't work anymore. What people want is a conversation. Kurt, tell me something I don't know that's going to help me with my business. Give me some insight, some perspective I'm not thinking about, and then I'll buy. You don't have to sell me. Just show me the value. That's all you got to focus on.
I love that because I have someone in one of my masterminds, and he's building his runway to leave his job, and he wants to start coaching in physical realm. He's lost 150 pounds. He gets all these folks he's providing value just through his Instagram posts. And I'm like, all right, great. Let's monetize it. Let's bring people in. Let's put together a program. And I said, if you do this, if you do a $2,000 program, it's a 3-month program, you get 20 people in there. And he's like, I guess I just don't know why someone would want to pay me $2,000.
Isn't that
I was like, what do you think I'm going to say to that? And he's like, and he recited exactly what I would say to him. And I'm like, you got to get excited, provide value to that person. And he's like, yeah, you're right. But there are I get it. There's imposter syndrome. There's I'm not worthy, which is a huge challenge to business owners. But then, you got to find that wherewithal and that intestinal fortitude to say, damn it, I love what I'm doing. And if you don't love it, maybe don't do it.
But I also think, so I always ask people the question, should you love what you sell? And people will respond, Victor, yes, you should. And to which I say, no, you don't. See? And here's why. When you say, you make the statement, you got to love what you sell. That's like narcissism at its best. Because you love what you sell. It doesn't matter. What you should love is what it does for your customer.
Sure.
That's what you should love. That's what you should fall in love with. Look, I'll sell the driest product in the world. I don't even love it. But man, I love what it does for my customers. You know what I mean? That's power right there, because it's not about loving your product, and that's what we've been taught. It's about, look what it could do for you. Look what my weight loss program has done for me. But more importantly, man, I know what it's going to be able to do for you. And that's the excitement right there. That's the value. I'm going to show you how to do it. Now, it's interesting, when you hear that mindset, a lot of these folks are probably thinking imposter syndrome, as you pointed out, I'm not worthy. But they're also saying, well, yeah, they can get that information anywhere. You're missing the point. A lot of people just need somebody to keep them on track, to guide them. And they need somebody to believe in. And believe in them. In other words, they need that. And I think they don't see themselves as the X factor in the equation. And I think that's the mistake. They see the product, they see the process and all that stuff, but they never put their own X factor in there. Say, but here, I'm the differentiator. Yeah, I can buy it from somebody else. Of course I can. Yeah, I can get it somewhere else. We've reached a level where, all products look the same, right? 5 Sigma, quality's all equal. Parity of products, it's all the same. So what's the difference? The X factor, the individual that's going to show me how to do it. He understands me. She understands me. He's going to walk me through. He's going to hold my hand. She's going to walk me through so I get it and to make sure I don't fall off. I mean, that's what people want. And so I think he's not valuing himself. And that would be his issue. I don't mean to psychoanalyze a guy I don't even know, but there it is.
No. It's absolutely right. It's absolutely right. And it's something that I struggle with and a lot of people struggle with, on any given day,
Yeah. But and by the way, that's all of us. You say you struggle with it. So do I, right? Sometimes you got to remind yourself of these things. I said, so, what you're feeling is very natural. This whole hesitancy, it's very natural. The thing is, but why not? If you have something that can really help people, why not put it out there? Why not let them see it? The worst that's going to happen is no. Nobody ever died from no. Not that I know of.
Well, Victor, final question.
Yep.
This is the Freedom Club podcast. You've talked about your freedom journey on May 9th, at
3:48 p.m.
Yeah. What does the word freedom mean to you?
To me, it's synonymous with quality of life. By that, I mean is that, right now I live a quality of life that's so high. I feel guilty sometimes, but I don't. What that means to me is like, the option to do what you want to do. The thing is, sometimes we just want to do something for the sake of doing something. Sometimes I just want to go watch a movie, so I go watch a movie. Do you know what I mean? Sure. I like passive income. I have an online sales academy. I've learned that that's part of my formula also, right? Why is that good? Because I can see money coming in and a peace of mind there. That's kind of cool. That works. And so, because we all got bills to pay, right? You can't escape it. And so all that to mean is that if you can find a way to generate money, doing something you enjoy doing, but it still gives you enough time just to sit and do nothing, that to me is freedom. That is quality of life. Because I know a lot of people who hustle, yeah, man, going to grind it out. I'm not impressed with the guy that tells me, I work 14 hours a day. Well, congratulations, because I'm not happy. I wouldn't want to do that. I know speakers who will throw in my face, Victor, last year I traveled 180 dates. That's 180 dates that they had, right? And I used to go, now I go, damn, totally different reaction now. Because I know what that lifestyle is like. I don't want it. So to me, freedom is being able to have that time to have the lifestyle you want. And it's not easy to create, but once you get there, it's a good place to be. You know what I mean? It's a good headspace.
Absolutely. Well, Victor, on that awesome note, thank you so much for joining us on the Freedom Club podcast. I've really enjoyed it.
Same here, Kurt. Thank you very much, man.
Thanks.